Should we buy or sell the euro/Norwegian kroner pair? So first off, read this disclaimer carefully. And do your good deed of the day by liking and subscribing. So here is the euro-NOK pair, 4% from the 52-week low, but approaching 8% away from the 52-week highs. So here is the chart, a very much big picture. So let's look a bit at the history here, because there's an interesting pair that doesn't get a whole lot of attention. It's obviously not one of the major pairs, but there's been some interesting patterns. So one of the patterns I want to draw in here is what's called the inverse head and shoulder. So we could draw it like this: head and shoulder. In this case, it did work out in a bullish manner, meaning that the euro strengthened. Here we have a very small inverse head and shoulders pattern, also worked out in a pretty bullish direction. The euro strengthened. So now it gets a bit more controversial. You could argue that this is an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Some would argue that if the right shoulder is significantly below the left shoulder, then it doesn't count. But the logic of the pattern is similar. So basically, this pair, they do have quite a history when it comes to inverse head and shoulders patterns. Here you do have a shoulder, head, and shoulder. In this case, you did get a move up, but not big. Here as well, a bit inverse head and shoulder-ish. The reason why this one popped up on my radar is because given that this pair has a thing for inverse head and shoulders, it is very interesting that we have a potential major inverse head and shoulders right here and right now. As we saw historically, these inverse head and shoulders, they usually form. There's no guarantee that it will form, but the current low here that could form a right shoulder is very interesting. So there is an increased probability that we will see a strengthening of the euro versus the Norwegian kroner. Looking at the daily data points, we are below all kinds of moving averages. If we look here at the RSI and the PPO, so the RSI is at a level that often leads to a mean reversion in favor of the euro, but there have been times where the euro has gone the pair has gone all down here to oversold on RSI until we saw a reversion. And the same thing with the PPOs. We are low, but not at guaranteed almost to go up lows. Here is the daily data points. We are rather low on RSI and some of these PPOs. Quite a few times, these lows have led to a strengthening of the euro. But as we see, back here during this pullback, we did actually see RSI get into quite a low territory here. This is 27-ish. Here RSI got into the 23, 21-ish, 22-ish territory. So we are not at a level that is guaranteed to go up, but we are at a level that could lead to a strengthening based on the history. So I write here RSI and PPO oversold on the dailies, and we do have an inverse head and shoulders pattern. So I give the bulls a 4 here on the technicals. They do have an interesting setup. So to the right here, we have the seasonality for the pair we are actually looking at, euro/the Norwegian kroner. So to the right here, in green over the last 5 years, blue the last 7 years, and red the last 10 years, the seasonality is very favorable here, frankly, to the euro. It usually strengthens against the kroner. Initially into the last part of September, then we see a bit of a pullback and then strength here into the end of the year. To the left here, we have the euro against the reserve currency, the US dollar. Over the last 5 years, we do see that the August is mediocre, September, October, November are weak. Over the last 10 years, we do see that the euro weakens into October. And the last 20 years, though, a big picture, we do actually see that September, October, November, Yeah, they are more bearish than bullish, but they are not actually really that bearish either. The most relevant seasonality we got was, the pure Euro Norwegian Kroner pair, and I give the bulls a 6 here on that seasonality. It was pretty good. When it comes to the fundamentals, I give the Euro a 2. I give it a bit of a bullish lean simply because a significant part of the strengthening of the Norwegian kroner, it has, of course, been related to the energy industry. There's all of a sudden a very strong demand for Norwegian energy. The reason why I think there's a possibility now that the euro has become undervalued against the Norwegian kroner is that you see here that price has fallen way down here to levels that we had back in mid-ish 2019, and that was way before the C-19 lockdown, way before the war. I mean, we might be in a situation where the euro has actually gotten a bit undervalued. So let's look at the relative performance. So against the S&P 500, we have minus 57%, minus 63% with the euro, the VGK, which is the European stock market ETF, then minus 53% here with the Norwegian stock market ETF, NORW, then 1% against the dollar index. Looking at short-term correlations, minus 72% with S&P 500, minus 46% with the European stocks, minus 80% here with the Norwegian kroner, which is what we sort of would expect. So basically, if the euro currency strengthens against the Norwegian kroner, it usually is detrimental to the Norwegian stock market ETF. And then 39-ish% positive with the dollar index. So short and long term, it seems like the strongest correlation we do get here is it's with the Norwegian stock market ETF, where we had a negative correlation. So yeah, here is the Norwegian stock market ETF, a strong rally on the weeklies here. Yeah, we are not yet at like high danger territory on RSI or the PPOs. We even have a buy signal here on the MACD, but the MACD, especially the weekly MACD, is a very slow indicator. Yeah, okay, I think there's some severe data issues here with the Norwegian stock market ETF. So I think it's better for us to look at the OBX, the Oslo index. Yeah, so yeah, we've seen, and we also have that MACD buy signal here on the weeklies, here on the dailies. Yeah, I mean, the PPOs, like the purple PPO here, it is a bit in dangerous-ish territory. RSI is a bit close to levels that have triggered pullbacks. Yeah, but there could be a bit more fuel left in the rally. But basically, the easy bullish gains have been made. And given that we did see a negative correlation with the currency pair and this stock market, it means that if the euro strengthens, then that will be, detrimental to the OBX. So here is the relationship between the currency pair and the Norwegian stock market ETF. Okay, so the thing is that we do see that the stock, this pair, it has fallen down to a bit of a horizontal support-ish level. So there's that. So let's look at the seasonality. Like that. So in green over the last 5 years, blue over the last 7 years, and red over the last 10 years. Yeah, we do see that the seasonality is very favorable to the euro strengthening against the Norwegian kroner. So we do end up with a 4 on relative performance. So we end up with an average score of 4. The key signal is RSI and PPO are oversold on the dailies. and we also have a very substantial inverse head and shoulders pattern. Further, we do see that inverse head and shoulders patterns, they have a tendency to actually work out here. So yeah, more reasons to be bullish than bearish on the euro. So we have some time left, so let's just scan through some Norwegian stocks. So here is one of them. This is Equinor. Yeah, we do have it listed on the NYSE. Yeah, so we have seen a rally now, a third time where we are testing this, resistance zone. So given that we have seen failures here very recently, uh, it's potentially more favorable to the bears than the bulls at this point. Yeah, it's such a clear resistance level. So I guarantee you that you do have bears who put on positions near these highs. If we do get a breakout and resistance turns into support, then that's a different thing. But these kinds of patterns, they are very favorable to the bears in the same way that when you have like a triple bottom, it's very favorable to the bulls. At least you will have a bunch of bulls trying to form lows. So here is the DNB stock, which is the biggest bank in Norway. Weekly data points, very nice time cycles here. So let's draw in the time cycles. Oh, very, very clean time cycles. The problem for the bulls is that here is the middle-ish of the time cycle, and this is also where the high was formed, and the declining phase extends all the way into late August 2023, and these time cycles have been clean. So yeah, that was more bearish. Here is Aker BP. Let's look at that one. Yeah, we have to look at the Oslo listing, and Oslo, it is the capital of Norway. I think you can see something very interesting yourself, and that is this green 50-week moving average. Just very easy to buy as a support level. More often than not, it has worked very well. So yeah, that's bullish, but we have already seen a bit of a bounce here. Looking at the daily data points, then you do have the red 200 daily moving average. But you see here that there's a bit of a battle around that moving average, so it is sliced and diced a lot. Looking back here again on the weeklies, like if you look at this move here, it took quite a few weeks for us to get a rally. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, a month testing that moving average, and we haven't gotten a strong rally yet. Here we had 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5 was when we got that big rally. So basically, the bulls need to rally strongly next week. If they don't, then people will look back, at the history and start to get a bit concerned because the bulls are sort of spending a bit too much time goofing around, which could suggest that there's not really that many bulls out there waiting to buy Aker BP. Here is movie. That it actually is a salmon company. So here are weekly data points. We are now testing the blue 100-week moving average. It has been, let me just draw it in. It has been very viable in the past, but it also has been rather favorable to the bears temporarily or even a bit longer-ish term. So it's basically it's a very important moving average. On the daily data points, it's very messy. It's not certainly not bullish on the dailies here. So here is Norsk Hydro. This is listed on the Oslo Exchange. Weekly data points and very clean time cycles. Bad news is that we do have a major declining phase that certainly seems to be in motion, and that extends all the way into late 2023. So yeah, we have seen a bunch of interesting stuff here. There's been a lot of moves. I think that especially this inverse head and shoulder on this currency period, it's a pretty big deal. It's also a very big deal if we do not see a right shoulder form. If we do see a break there, then that will be very detrimental to the euro, very beneficial to the Norwegian kroner. So the relationship between price and a certain indicator is very dynamic. So if it doesn't work in the expected direction, then you could get a very strong move in the opposite direction.